Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make a really simple and easy pair of fingerless mittens. These gloves are made using only single crochet and they're really easy to make. It only takes a couple minutes and you can size them to fit just about anybody, so you don't really need to worry about shaping or anything with these. They are simple block like this, and I added a contrasting band of silver at the top of each side. Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this really easy pair of fingerless gloves. The first one that I have already made, and it uses only single crochet stitches. You could use any other stitch you like, but for this I'm only going to be using single crochet. And as you can see, this is a really simple design, but you can make it to fit anybody, and it's a great beginner's project because it helps you learn how to create the stitches, seam the sides, and add a little bit of contrasting color, but it isn't too difficult. So here's the first one that I've already made. You can see how it stays nice and snug, but it also gives me enough room to move my arm around without any difficulty. This is also really soft yarn. So let me show you how I made this with the second one. So for the first thing you need to do, you need to measure your hand. If you're making this for yourself, it's really easy to just grab a tape measure and go around your knuckles, around the widest part of your knuckles, and if you need your hand to be bent just slightly like this, that'll help make sure that it's loose enough so that when you actually make the glove and you bend your hand, it's not going to feel tight at the knuckles. So I already measured mine from before, so I already know that mine is exactly 7 inches. So that's the measurement that I'm going to be starting with. You can measure yours and you can work as much as you want, or if your hand is smaller, you can work less if you want. But figure out the circumference of your hand, and then you can go by that. If you want to make it for somebody else, you can also use a chart that tells you the circumferences for different hands, like a measurement guide, and you can find those pretty much everywhere online. But for now, we're going to just be using the 7-inch one for me. Okay, so next you get your yarn and a 5.5 millimeter hook. Make your slip knot, and now create a chain that is the same length as what you just measured for your circumference. Okay, so just use your hook and create a chain. The exact count doesn't really matter as long as it's the right length. Just keep working until you have a chain that is 7 inches or whatever measurement you had. Let's stop and measure. Okay, you're not lined up with the 0. And without pulling or anything, measure how much it is. So I went a little bit over. So I'm just going to hold it at the 7 and then undo those last couple ones. Okay. Okay, once we have our chain, we can start on the first row. We're going to skip the first space right next to the hook, and we're going to single crochet into the next chain space. You're going to insert your hook into the space, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then pull through both loops to finish the stitch. And we're just going to do that into each space afterwards. I love this pattern for beginners because it's really simple and you don't need to mess with any fussy measurements or shaping skills. You can just make a simple rectangle, and as long as it's the right width, you should be fine. You can also use this with more interesting stitches if you want to try something different, or if you have a different color pattern you want to use rather than a simple solid color, you can also do that. This would also look really great with a multicolored yarn. That way you don't have to worry about color changes and it kind of takes care of that job for you. But for now, we're just going to work a simple, solid single crochet pattern. We are going to add 2 stripes of silver at the tops and bottoms at the end, but I'll show you that when we get to it. So just single crochet in each space all the way along. And here is the last one. Okay. Once you have your first row, we can turn and start working the next row. And this is what we're going to do for pretty much every row afterwards. So just chain 1, turn your work around, and then work 1 single crochet into each space. And that's pretty much all there is to this pattern. Just continue working this until you have a block that is as long as you want your mitten to fit. So I would like mine to go from, just above my knuckles to a little bit below my wrist, like right there. So I would continue working this piece until it reaches that length. Okay, I've been working on the sample for a little while now, and I'm happy with the length that it's at. So I'm going to bind off this piece. First I'm going to work the last stitch, just single crochet into the last space, and now I'm going to bind off. I already cut a long tail, so I'm just going to pull that through and pull it a little bit to tighten it. Now this piece is 7 inches across from the measurement that we did, and it's perfect to go around my hand it's the perfect size to go around my hand like this. And this length is the length that I wanted it to sit at, so from right here to just there. You can make it longer or shorter if you want, but that's the length that I chose for myself. Now our next step is to sew it all together. So to do this, I'm going to get my tapestry needle. Okay. Now to sew it together, you're just going to grab your tapestry needle and thread your yarn through it. This is a jumbo tapestry needle, by the way. And I'm going to start first by joining the end stitches just a little bit. Just insert into this below the stitches. Don't go through them, go underneath them. I'm going to work a couple stitches first to secure the top of it. Thumb hole to be. I like how it sits right there. So I can do, work until where you want the thumb. Let's do one more space, make it a little bit higher. Okay. Now this top half will be the part that sits above your thumb. And now we're going to leave a hole to accommodate where your thumb will actually go. And then we're going to bring the yarn here and then continue sewing it from here. So it works easiest if you do this while you're holding it, like while you're actually wearing it. Or you can use a stitch marker to hold this spot right here so that you know where you want to stop. But I'm going to take it off and show you just like this. You're going to skip the area of the thumb hole, so about 1.5 inches, and just go through one side of the fabric only and bring your yarn through. You're not joining it to the other half, just kind of just bringing the yarn over so you can continue working. Now, you've left some room here for the thumb, and you're going to continue sewing the rest of the thing together. So just continue bringing it down, going underneath the stitches, and seaming this side closed. Okay, and here we are at the end. Just give it a little tug to tighten it. And you can go ahead and secure this yarn and tie it off. I will come back and bind off that loose end later. But for now, let's see how it fits. Insert your hand in, and there you go. You left a perfect little gap for your thumb, and the sides are all sewn up. Now, this next part is optional, but I think it adds a nice, pretty touch to it, so we're going to add a contrasting band of color to both the top and the bottom edge. To do that, I'm going to use a silver yarn and my same 5mm hook. I'm going to start by inserting my hook into the last row up here. Just insert into a stitch as if you were working a normal stitch. Bring your slip knot over the top of the hook and pull that color through. Then chain 1. And now you're just going to work a single crochet into each of the top stitches. So into this top row above, just work a regular round of single crochet. I'm leaving my tail here so it gets worked in a little bit. You can leave it hanging out and then weave it in later, but this saves you from needing to do that. And just continue all the way around. Just work all the way around, and when you get to the end, I'll show you how to finish off seamlessly. Okay, here is our last one. We're going to work into this stitch, work our single crochet. Okay, now that we've done our row around, let me show you how to join this seamlessly. Right now you can see that there's a little bit of a disconnect between where this last stitch ends and where this first stitch begins, and we don't want that. So I just took the end of this yarn after I finished that last stitch. I didn't bind off, I just pulled that whole loop through and cut the yarn. Here, let me actually show you how I did that. I'm going to redo this last stitch just to show you what I mean. Okay, so here is our last stitch. I'm going to actually work into that same first space, and it's just a single crochet, except you pull all of it through. The yarn is already cut, so you just continue pulling the rest through, just like that. Okay, so now I took that tail end and threaded through my tapestry needle. Okay, now to finish this, we're going to go underneath both loops of this first stitch here, underneath both legs, and pull the yarn through. And now we're going to go into the center of this one, this last stitch that we worked, and just go under that back loop. You see how that finished it seamlessly? It added another stitch right here. Let's see, it's this one. Well, it's this one. So I couldn't even tell which stitch was the added one. But I just added another stitch there to finish the row seamlessly. And now you can go ahead and tie off this end and weave it in and everything. And then you're done. Okay. I will weave that off later. But here, let's take a look at our finished mitten. It looks pretty simple and rectangular from here, but there is a little space here for your thumb. You can also work a round of contrast color around here, just in single crochet or in slip stitches, just going in between the spaces that are there, or you can just leave it. I like it without the extra detail there. I think this much is enough, so I'm going to leave it. But if you want to add it, you can go ahead and do that. Let me tuck this tail in that I didn't weave in yet. So here's our first one. And here is the other one that I started with. Now you have a pair of finished fingerless gloves. And you can make these in just about any size. The only measurement you really need is the circumference of the hands and how long you want it to be, which is totally optional, and however you can customize it to whatever length you want. The first time I made gloves like this, I actually made them go like all the way to my elbow, and they were cool and they were fun to make, but I didn't actually wear them very much, so this is a much more usable length for me. And that is all. You're done with your fingerless gloves.